Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vibe Guide. So I know it's been a couple weeks. I went on vacation. And that's what I wanted to share in this podcast episode. So we had a wonderful trip. It was me and two other girlfriends, and it was for one of their 35th birthday. So we went to England and more specifically the Cotswolds area. So we did London for the day and then went down to Cotswolds, which if those of you that aren't familiar, it's just like really cute, quaint, like country villages that are kind of a little bit more of a tourist attraction now because of all these really cute little cottages with like thatched roofs and, you know, very like quintessential English countryside, like rolling hills and sheep everywhere. And it's just like really cute. And so yeah, so we went there for her birthday. And then after that, I went on to Lisbon, Portugal, and my two friends went home. So I did Lisbon by myself. And there was one specific event that I wanted to share and talk about because I think it pertains to like intuition. And unfortunately, it wasn't like a very pleasant experience for us. It was really scary and uh, we like trauma bonded for life. But the rest of the trip was like 10 out of 10. I mean, we had so much fun, just like three girls. We like rented a car, we're driving all around, just like had so many laughs and so many, funny moments that unfortunately the last night we were there, we just had a really, as they said, unlucky situation happen. So I thought I would share a little bit about that because looking back on it, it just seems like there were little like hints and things like that that like our angels were sending us to kind of let us know that like they're with us and like we're okay, which when we looked back on it in hindsight, it was just kind of like we were like, whoa, that's really kind of crazy that we were getting all these little signs. And obviously we didn't know what for, but in the middle of like this really scary situation, I think we both agreed, like, at a certain point, we just kind of, like, knew we were gonna be okay, and, like, we didn't really have to be, as scared as we were, like, when the situation first started. So, yeah, I just thought I would share because when you're in, like, really intense, scary situations, your intuition takes over fully, like, you go into, like, fight or flight. Well, I don't know, do you? I think initially it was, like, fight or flight, and it was, like, very, um the adrenaline's going and you're kind of shaky and you don't really know. But I feel like everything happens so quickly in certain situations that you don't have time to like think about things. And some of the choices are like, could be fatal for you, like if you didn't choose the right choice for yourself. And so I think more or less it was like our intuition and just kind of letting go and, like, not really putting too much thought into, like, what our next move was. We just kind of went where we were pulled and, like, we didn't think twice. Like, we didn't, like, stutter. We didn't, like, there was no time for that. It wasn't like, "Okay, go this way," and then you think about it. It wasn't. It was just like, "Go this way, go." So, um, back to the trip, like, we stayed in this small little town called Bourton-On-The-Water. I don't think I'm saying it right. I don't It's not like Burton. There's like a couple extra letters in there, Bourton or something. I don't know. For me, it's Burton-On-The-Water. Probably never visit there again, but I have to say that it was a very cute it's called like the Venice of the Cotswolds because there's like a little river that goes through and there's all these little footbridges that go over it, and it's super like quaint and cute and like old stone buildings everywhere and like a cute little, village center and I don't know, very idyllic. Like you wouldn't, be scared to walk around or whatever there. And so we stayed there. That was like our main spot. And then we went out to different little villages over the next few days and like explored and we rented a car and like that was comical in itself. So um yeah, overall, like Burton-On-The-Water, I kept saying, like, it gave me like Halloween Town vibes. Like it was, and if you guys know that Disney movie, like I don't know what it was about this town, but it was like a little spooky. Like there were like these just weird things that kept happening to us. And at one point we had to charge our car. So we had an electric car and we're American. So like we don't know, none of us own an electric car. We have no idea. So we go to like we keep somebody had told us like go to the co-op and which is like their grocery store and you can charge it there like for 90 minutes and then, you have to get your car because it's only 90-minute allowance. So we did that, and the first day, it, like, took us forever. We finally figured out we had to ask, like, 6 people. You have to download an app. It's, like, the whole thing. So while we're doing that, I'm trying to figure out how to, like, plug it into, like, the actual port, and all of a sudden, this, like, feather fell out of nowhere, and, like, feathers are not, like, a sign for me. Like, I normally wouldn't pay any attention to feathers, like, just never been a thing for me. Like, I don't know. I know it's been a thing for other people. I've had friends that have had when they see feathers, they're like, "Oh, it's like a sign," like, whatever. For me, it's never been one, and for my friend, her either, as far as I know. So, I was like, "Wait," I was like, "This feather just fell, like, that's so weird," and I looked up and I looked around, there's no trees. It's just, like, wide open sky. I didn't see a bird anywhere, so I was like, "Okay, weird." You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just, like, already on the ground. It, like, floated down, like, in front of me to, like, catch my attention. So, my friend was like, "Oh, we have to get the feather, like, make sure we get the feather." Of course, we forgot the feather, and, like, all the chaos of, like, trying to get the car charged and all the stuff, we forgot the feather. So, we go about our day, and we go to, like, visit some other towns and whatever, and we come back, and, um, that night, other little weird things that happened, like, we had gone to the pub, and there was, like, this large group of guys that were there drinking and hanging out, and they were, like, all friends. They were, like, all married and, like, older, and, like, one of the guys just, like, stood out. He was, like, a jokester and, like, whatever, had, like, a kind of a big personality, and, like, as soon as we walked in the door, he was, like, right on us, like, "Where are you guys from?" Like, asking us all these questions, and then, like, his friends were kind of like, "Oh, here we go." Like, so then he asked us if we wanted to do a magic trick, and he's like, If I win, then you buy us around to Guinness, and, like, if I mess up, then, like, I'll buy you guys a round of Guinness or whatever." We're like, "Sure, whatever." So we do this little magic trick, which, like, blew our minds, and without, like, getting into, like, all the details of it, basically what he did was he asked my friend, like, ask me questions that, like, I would never know the answer to. So she asked, like, 4 different questions or something like that, and the 2 I remember were she asked him what her husband's middle name was, and she also asked, like, where she went to college. So he would write it down on a little piece of paper, crumple it up, and then handed it back to her. So when it came time to read them out loud, my friend, like, read them out loud, and she was like, "No freaking way. Like, how do you know my husband's middle name?" And this teeny tiny university or college in Virginia, all women's college in Virginia, like, that no one would really know. And so he got both of those, and he got the other 2 right too. I can't remember what the questions were. So that was just, like, super weird, and, like, right before we'd gone into the bar, there was, like, this black cat that went across the road, and, like, normally, none of that stuff means anything to me. I'm like, I don't pay any attention to stuff like that. I'm not into, like, the spookiness of it, like, I'm just not, but, like, for some reason, that caught my eye too, and so when he did that magic trick, my friend was like, "Oh my god, are you a warlock?" And I'm like, "Warlock? Like, who uses that word?" I would've said, like, a psychic or, like, a witch or, like, I don't know, I would've used, like, a different word. And then I, like, kept thinking that I kept calling it, like, Halloween Town, and if y'all know, in Halloween Town, Calabar is, like, a warlock, and he's, like, the evil warlock. So anyways, like, all this weird stuff is, like, happening, and I kinda getting, like, the days mixed up, but at some point, I believe it was the next day, we had to yeah, it was the last day, so we had to charge the car enough to get the car back to the guy who we rented it from. So we, had our day, whatever, we went around, gosh, I can't remember what we did. I'm like, all my days are like squishing together. Um, but anyway, so we decided to charge the car while we were at dinner. And it was Sunday, and we had really wanted to do like a Sunday, like classic English roast, but like everything was closed by the time we got back. I think we did like a high tea in the afternoon. I think it was that day. And um so by the time we got back, it was, like, too late. Like, the pub that we were gonna go to that's was right next to our Airbnb, the Mousetrap Inn, it closed at, like, 6:30, Like, the last time to get food was at 6:30, so we were like, "Oh, shoot." And then we had trouble, like, finding other places that were open, so we found this one random Italian place in the little center of the village, which was about, like, a 5-minute walk from our Airbnb. So we walked into town, dropped our car off to charge, and at this point, we kinda knew how to do it, but for some reason at this time, it had started charging before we paid. So us being, like, the greedy bitches that we were like, "Oh, well, if it's gonna charge and we don't have to pay, well, let's just try it. Let's see what happens." So, of course, while we're at dinner, we think the car's charging. It's not. So we get back from dinner, us 3, we walk back, and this is like a dark there's not like street lights, there's like a few like in the center of the town, but like once you go off onto the side streets, there's like no light. It's like very small amount of light. So us 3 walked together and we're like a little creeped out. And I remember when we were like walking back, we walked past this person's house and like their outside light kept flickering at us. And it was so weird because like we were like, "Whoa, what was that?" And then like we'd walk ahead and it would stop. And then we'd walk back through to like test it and it like started flickering again. It was so weird. So we kept walking, go through like this dark parking lot, and we're like, "Oh my God, this is like actually a little freaky." We go to check the car is not charged. We're like, "Crap." So then we decide, we're like, "Well, we'll just go home, we'll get showers, we'll pack," because we had to leave the next day. And we go and do all that, and then the plan was for, like, all 3 of us to go back and get the car because we were all just, like, a little, like it just was, like, really dark, so we were like, power numbers, whatever, like, none of us really thought anything would happen, I don't think, but and for me, I don't I've traveled so much around the world by myself, I definitely didn't think twice about it, like, I don't know, I've never had anything happen. There was one incident in Hawaii, but, like, I put myself in that situation like a dummy, and I had to, like, physically defend myself, and, like, that guy learned really quick because I broke his nose and, like, like, that was pretty, like, intense, and that was just I put myself in that situation like an idiot. But this kinda stuff, like, when you're just, like, walking around at night, like, I've just never been, like, very fearful, like, I've never really had any situations where anyone's, like, attacked me or followed me or made me feel uncomfortable, like, I've just never had that happen. So, I didn't really put much thought into it when our other friend, she wasn't, like, finished packing, she was, like I don't know, the other me and my friend, we were, like, ready to go. So, we're like, "We'll just go get the car," like, no big deal. So, we start walking towards the town center because when we had walked back, originally, we had gone, like, the back way, and it was just, like, really dark and, like, side streets and whatever, and we were like, "Let's just walk, like, straight, and then we'll cut up and, like, go up that way," like, more of, like, a main way. So, as soon as we hit the town, like, the little village center, which was probably, like, 2-minute walk, like, from our Airbnb, I'd kind of noticed off to my side that there was, like, a person standing on the footbridge, but, like, I didn't really give it any attention, and then, like, my friend immediately was like, "Well, he has clown pants on," and I'm like, "Huh?" And then I kinda looked, like, because 'cause I've always been the one, like, if anyone ever gave me, like, weird energy, like, I don't make eye contact, like, I keep walking, I just, like, tunnel vision, and I just, like, keep walking, and, like, I don't know, that's always worked for me. I feel like it just, like, gives off, like, almost like a confidence of, like, "Don't fuck with me," like, I don't know, like, that's just how I've gotten by, like, in any kinda situation where maybe I passed someone that gave me a little bit of, like, a weird vibe. So this time, my friend Blair was, like, looking over and, like, looking at him, and which I'm thankful she did because she got, like, a much better detailed description of this guy than I did because I was just, like, tunnel vision, like, I was, like, looking straight ahead, kind of, like, I knew he was there, and I had a general idea, but, like, I didn't know all the, details or whatever. So she keeps looking, and she's like, "He's coming," and I'm like, "Bitch, what do you mean?" And she's like, "He's coming," and I'm like, "What?" And so then at that point, I never turned around, but it's like that feeling you get when, like, the back of your hair on your neck stands up and, like, you can feel someone's presence, like, getting closer and closer. And so we just, like, locked arms, and I remember I don't know actually physically how close he got to us, like, my friend could say that because she kept looking back. I, like, could not bring myself to look back because 'cause I'm like, "Is this real life? Like, this has never happened to me, like, I cannot like, this is not happening." And for, like, a split second, I remember I was almost gonna go, like, classic Caroline and be like, confront the guy like right there and be like, who the F do you think you like, what the are you doing? Like, call him out right there. But there was something about it that I was like, no, like, do not do that. Do not engage. Like, it's just going to give him more of a reason to maybe try and talk to us, or like, I don't know. Like, we didn't know what was going on. And it happened so quickly. Like, he was standing on a footpath and like a footbridge in the middle of the river, just standing there very strangely. And then within maybe 30 seconds, he was like right behind us. So he clearly was on a mission. And at that same moment, I was looking straight ahead and I realized that at the end of this little village, it went completely pitch black dark. Like there was like 5 or 6 little more lights on the main road. But then after that, it went pitch black dark. So as soon as I'm like looking at that, thinking that, my friend's like, let's go this way, let's go this way. And normally, like against my, I feel like, everything's going so quickly, but like normally, I feel like if I was actually thinking in a state of thinking, I would have thought that that was a really bad idea to go off the main strip and to like cut up off this little side road. But for some reason, I just like went with it. And then immediately we saw this like hotel called the Dial House, and it had like landscape lighting. So it was kind of lit up. And it just so happened, like, by the time we ran at this point, like, into the little walkway. There's, like, one little walkway in and out, and the rest is, like, a brick wall or, like, a stone wall and, like, shrubs on either side around, so it was really the only way in and out, kind of. And we ran up to the door, and my friend, like, started knocking on the door, and she was like, "I hear people in there. I hear people in there." And I'm like, "Oh my god, thank God, like, they'll answer the door." Well, no one came to the door, and then right around the same time, we didn't see him, like, he initially didn't follow us into the hotel pathway, but then I heard, like, ruffling around in, like, the shrubs, and he just appeared and pulled up a chair at this point, and then at this point, he was, like, engaging us and was like, "So, like, where are you guys from? Like, how long are you gonna be here?" And I'm like, at this point, I mean, obviously, in the very beginning, like, someone following you, like, your radar is, like, screaming, but it didn't occur to me, like, right off the bat to call, like, the police, like, it just didn't, because like, when he disappeared, I was like, "Oh, okay," like, whew, like, I knew I could give the benefit of the doubt, like, and he wasn't nefarious and, like, whatever. I was kinda relieved, and then when he reappeared, I was like, "Oh, shit." And I immediately was like, "I have to call the police." So, he pulled up a chair, like, off the little there's all these little, like, patio tables out on the little, like, front lawn or the back lawn. I don't know. We still don't really know which direction, like, this hotel, because what we went to looked like the front door, but no one could open it. Like, so I don't no one had a key to it, I guess, or something like that. So I don't know. Anyways, like, if you Google it and, like, Google Maps it, like, you can see, like, there's all these, like, patio tables on the front, and he pulled up one of the chairs and, like, sat in the middle of the walkway and was basically like, "You're not leaving unless, like, you get through me," kind of energy. And so he just sat in the chair very strangely, and I remember, like, at this point, my friend was like, "Well," like, we're, like, trying to be loud and, like, talk about, like, "Oh, we don't have our key, like, our friends are right there, like, this is our hotel. We're just trying to get in." And he like kept asking us questions in the middle. And like she was Googling like the concierge, like the number to the hotel. And then at that point, I'm Googling like how to call 911 because I had already tried to call 911 and it didn't go through. And I was like, I'm in a different country. Like, holy shit, I don't know the freaking number to the police. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, and at this point, like, your adrenaline's going, you're a little shaky, like, your brain's not really functioning all the way, and so, like, I wish I had, like, the Google searches because the shit that I was putting in my phone, you guys, like, literally, like, looking back on it was, like, comical because 'cause I'm like I was like, "911, but in England," and then, like, "What's the number for 911 in England?" And it took me, like, 3 or 4 Google searches, you guys, to, like, figure out what the number was, like, how literally insane is that? So I find it, it's 999 if anyone's ever in England, dial 999, And at this point, my friend had called the hotel concierge. No one was answering. We're continuing to bang on the door and no one's coming. And right around the time that I connected in with the police, with the operator, he got on the phone. The guy sitting, he got on the phone. And that immediately sent my heart into my asshole because I was like, oh my God, he's calling more people. Like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? Because I realized very quickly that like this was more than just like trying to mug us, or he could have easily, ran up to us and like gotten our money or our wallets or whatever, which we had nothing on. We had pajamas on. My hair was wet. I just taken a shower. Like I had a big coat on. Like I didn't have anything with me except for my phone. So, um, if he wanted to mug us, he could have easily done that, like, on the main road. Like, he could have easily done that. There was no one around. No one. No one. So, and I just thought, like, it just was very odd to me because it was one guy and two of us. And I'm just like, what is this guy on? Like, what is he thinking? And we could tell when he was like asking us questions that he was like slurring his words and like, but then when he got on the phone, I couldn't tell and she couldn't tell if maybe he was speaking a different language or if he was just slurring his words that bad. Like, I think it was a little bit of mix of both. Like, I think it might have been a different language, but like, I don't know. And so when he got on the phone, it kind of put me in overdrive. And I remember like looking around for a weapon. There was like a fire hydrant to my right. It was like a big one. So I was like, well, how am I going to lift that thing? But it was a big one, and I remember I kept looking at it, figuring out how to get the pin out of it because, like, as a nurse, you're taught how to, like, use a fire extinguisher and stuff like that, so I'm, like, going through that in my mind, like, really quickly, and I'm like, "Okay, we have a weapon," like, and then there was, like, a little kid's high chair, like, a metal one that was, like, over in the yard, and I was like, "Okay, I can use that," like, I was just trying to, like, case out the place for myself because at this point, we're, like, trapped into this little doorway in the hotel. It's like a big stone doorway, and there was, like, a little window on either side that we could see out of the sides. So, like, we're, like, have eyes on this guy the whole time, but he got on the phone. I'm on the phone with the operator, and I'm trying to play it off because I know that he can hear us because we can hear him. So I'm trying to play it off, and I'm like, "Hi, yeah, have a little bit of a situation. We're trying to get into our hotel, the Dial House. We're in Bourton-On-The-Water, and we don't have our key, and no one's letting us in. So if you could send a police officer to help us, that would be amazing." And basically, very quickly, he was like, "Yeah, no, like that's not going to happen." And I'm like, "Excuse me, like." No. We need a police officer, like, we're not get we're Americans, like, we have no other place to stay, like, there's nothing open, like, we have to get into this hotel. And right around the same time is when he got on the phone, when the guy got on the phone and was, like, calling whoever he was calling, I don't know, but in my mind, I'm like, "You're calling in reinforcements. Holy shit, we're in, like, a situation." So, at that point, I threw, like, my jacket over my head, y'all. And I was basically, like, yelling at the guy, but, like, whisper yelling. I'm like, "Sir, I don't think you understand." I was like, "I'm not trying to talk really loud because this man has followed us. He's got us trapped in this hotel doorway. No one's answering the door. Like, we're not patrons of this hotel. Like, we're in an Airbnb. We were going to get our car. He followed us, and now we're trapped in this little walkway. He's got jester pants on. He's got clown pants on." The guy's like, "Clown pants?" And we're like, "Yeah, like, I don't know." They're like, "They look like jester pants." Like, "I don't know. They have, like, colorful diamonds all over them." Like, "I don't know what that is." And he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "So, wait, you're not staying at the hotel?" And I'm like, "No." This one, I'm, like, literally in, like, full on survival mode, and I'm like, "You need to send us a police officer right now. Like, this man has bad intentions. He has followed us. He is stalking us. Like, you need to send a police officer right now." And he's like, "Well, ma'am, there's a police shortage." And I'm like, "A police shortage? Like, what?" I'm like, "You have to send somebody. Like, he could kill us. Like, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, ma'am, the closest police officer would be like 20, 30 minutes away." And I'm like, "Bro, are you fucking kidding me?" And at this point, I was just like on the phone, like regular. I didn't give a shit if that guy heard or not, because in my mind, I was scared that if he heard me, like, really on the phone with the police, that he might amp it up and go quicker, or it might deter him. Like, I didn't know which way it was gonna go, and, like, so that's why initially I didn't wanna make it super obvious that I was on the phone with the police, because I didn't know if he would, like, hurry up and try and do whatever he was trying to do to us, like, I didn't know. So, but thank God, like, once I had said the police and, like, I was, like, very clear at this point that I was on the phone with the police, and I turned around and, like, told the guy that. I was like, "Yeah, I'm on the phone with the police, like, they're coming, they're gonna let us into the hotel." He disappeared. I didn't see him walk away. I was like, turned the other way. At this point, I'm like banging on the door. I'm jingling the door. I'm like banging, 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 banging because we can hear people in the hotel and they can hear us. Like we can hear. And so basically, he disappears into the darkness. No fucking clue which way he goes. So then that's even more like it's relieving, but it's also like you're, like, trapped in this little thing, like, you don't know, like, if he went to go get more people and he's gonna reappear, like, out of the darkness, like, it was, like I don't know what was worse, like, having eyes on him or not, like, I don't know. So, at that point when he disappeared and I'm still on the phone with the operator and I'm like, he's telling me he's trying to figure out what he can do, the police are, like, 30 minutes away. So at this point, I'm like, all right, well, he's gone. Like, I have to go, like, bang on the window. Like, I have to, like, these people have to help us. Like, they have to let us in. Like, we need to get in. Like, we don't know where this guy is. I'm like, if he's going to get more people or what. So I step over, like, go through the little, like, garden, like, shrubs, and I go start banging on the window. And I'm like, please help us. Like, we need to come in. Like, let us in. And they're all like, it's a group of like older English people, probably like late 60s, maybe early 70s. And they're all sitting around drinking wine, brandy, whatever. And I'm, like, banging on the door. I look crazy because like, my hair's wet, I got a big trench coat on, like, I got, like, sweatpants on, and I'm, like I have the phone to my ear, and I'm trying to talk to the operator, and I'm also banging on the window because the operator was like, "Yeah, like, see if they'll let you in." And so, I kept banging on the window, and we could hear them, and they could hear us, and she was inside. One of the women was like, "Ooh, they're trying to get in. Oh, these silly girls. Where are their keys? Where are their keys?" Well, they were, like, going on and on and on, like, "Silly girls," like, "Da, da, da." And another woman, like, picks up her keys and, like, jingles them at me. And at this point, I almost went, like, feral and, like, broke the window because and at this point is when I also started to cry because I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, these people are gonna sit out here. This man could jump this fence and knife me at any point," because when you don't know where someone is, it, like, adds a layer of anxiety to a situation. It's like a haunted house. You're like, you don't know where the next, like, scare is gonna come from. So I'm, like, on, like, high alert. These assholes in the hotel aren't letting us in. We're banging on the window, and at some point, I also, like I put the phone up to the window, and I was like, "999," like, "I'm on the phone with the police, like, help us." And they just, like, kept, like, laughing and, like, thought it was funny, so I started crying, I'm on the phone with the operator, I'm like, "They think it's a big fucking joke, they're not letting us in, like, I don't know what you want us to do, like, you have to send a police officer, like." And at this point, I'm crying. So as soon as I started crying, then the operator was like, ma'am, like, we're sending a police officer. We're sending one. He'll be there in 15 minutes. Like, we're sending one. Like, we're doing the best we can." And I'm like, okay, like I felt a little relieved, but we're also still standing outside and don't know where this guy is. So at this point, I'm still like yelling at them inside the hotel. And my friend, she's like over and still in like the little doorway. And so I'm just kind of like freaked out because like I don't know which way this guy could come back or whatever. And finally, these two older men stand up and they're like, walk around, like just walk around. And I'm like, bad idea, but like, okay, I guess we'll try because like I didn't know where the guy was, but I was like, Blair, like we gotta try and do something. Like we have to like go meet them because they're not gonna let us in. So we like lock arms, we walk through the walkway, and then we go around the building and it's like pitch black dark. And I'm like, no, 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 no. So we ran back to the doorway and I ran back to the window and I'm like, you have to come get us. You come get us. I'm like, it's dark out here. We don't know where this guy is. You come get us. So they finally, I feel like, got it. And one of the guys comes out and he's like ripping a cig. Like he's like, thinks we're probably like drunk Americans, like these two crazy girls, like no big deal, whatever. So he comes around the side and we like hear them and they're like, hello, ladies, whatever they said. And we're like, "We're here, we're here, we're here," like frantic. We're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much." And so they run around and we run out of the little thing and meet them like outside, like on the little road. And he's like ripping a cig and he's like, we're like frantic and we're just like, this guy, he followed us. Like, we ran in here. We were trying to get you guys to open the door. Like, he sat there and watched us at the end of the walkway for the last 10 minutes. Like, we didn't know what to do. We kept banging on the door. And they were like, yeah, like the door, I guess they were saying like this door doesn't open and there's no concierge. And they say like everyone has a key. So like be mindful or something like that. Like, that's what they were telling us. And they were kind of like a little chill about it, and they were like, "Oh, like, whatever, whatever." And then all of a sudden we see the guy, and he went and got friends, and we were like, "That's him, like, that's the guy, he's got the freaking pants on, like the jester pants, the clown pants." And they were like at that point, they were like, "Whoa, okay." And he went and got more people, and we're like, "Yeah, it was just him, like, now he has more people." And so then they were like, "Okay, well, like, you stay right here. I'm gonna go get his and my jackets, and we're gonna walk you home." And I was like, "Well, I'm on the phone with the police, like, they're sending the police." And they were like, "Okay, good. Like, well, we'll just stay here. Like, we'll wait with you until the police get here." So about like 5 minutes later, the police showed up, and that was like literally comical. Like, he showed up, one guy, and basically like took like a 30-second like understanding of what went on. And then he was like, "Well, do you gentlemen mind walking the girls back? And I'm going to go try and find the guy." And I'm like, "What about our car?" Like, we were all the way to get our car. And he's like, "Oh, well, you'll probably get a ticket, but like they're not going to tow your car from the charging station." And I'm like, "Bro, okay. Like, don't you think we should probably get in the car with you and like you take us home and like not put these old men in danger?" Like, anyways, I didn't say any of that. At this point, there were other people walking around in the town, which thinking back on it, it kind of freaks me out. And I feel like people like that don't work alone. And it was just strange because there was a woman walking her dog around the same time. And this is like 11:30 at night, which, okay, like some people walk their dog super late. I get it. But there was two other men that just appeared out of nowhere as well, and they were walking, like, towards this little bridge, and she walked like, and at this point, the police are there, like, it's a whole thing. I'm yelling, like, I'm loud. I'm like, "You need to go tell her to go home because there's some guy who is nefarious out here, like, I don't know what he's trying to do, but clearly he's trying to do something." And so I'm, like, yelling that, and, like, it didn't seem to deter her at all, and she went across the footpath bridge and met the other guys, and then they had, like, a little bit of, like, a conversation from what I remember, and then they all walked in the same direction again. So I was like, I hate to be paranoid like that, but after a situation like that, I'm looking at everybody sideways. Like, I don't trust you, I don't trust the police, I don't trust these old guys. So I'm, like, looking at everybody like, who's in on it, who's not, like, what's happening? Um, and so that was it, and then the guy, I don't know if the police officer ever said anything to the people walking around the town now, like, they were looking, like, the woman with the dog was looking, but she didn't seem like she was, like, super freaked out that there were, like, police there, but the old men were telling us that, like, that's very rare. They were like, "You're so unlucky, like, it would be so rare here for something to happen like that, like, you guys are just unlucky, like, nothing like that happens here, like, my daughter walks around by herself, has never had a problem," like, so we have no idea, but, like, it just seems suspicious that all of a sudden, when there was no one in the town for 30 minutes, all of a sudden after this, there's, like, random people kind of walking around and, like, 2 extra guys and, like, a girl with a random dog. I'm like, I don't know. So it could have been absolutely nothing, and they could have just all been walking at the same time, but I don't know. They didn't seem for never having a police presence there or, like, having any kind of issues, and if I lived there, I think I would have been like, "Okay, wait, what's happening? Like, should I be concerned? I don't know. Like, should I go home?" You know? So anyways, the police officer, he turned to me and he said, I had just hung up with the operator and he was like, um, "Okay, well, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go try and find the guy." And he seemed a little like he didn't know what to do. And then he was like, "I'll call you." He was like, "Do I have your number?" And then I was like, "No." And then he said, "No, no, no, I do have your number. I'll call you." And I guess from like the operator, he could get my number. Never called me, never followed up. We never did a formal report, like nothing. The old man walked us home. I'm assuming they made it home safe themselves, we have no idea. We ran in that house, locked all the doors, locked all the windows. We all 3 slept in the same bed, knives within grabbing reach of our bed. Like, we were freaked out, like, to say the least. So, I share that because I mean, first of all, like, it's a story that, like, you would share because just to, like I don't know. I know I have listeners from all over the world that listen to this, and, like, I did meet someone in Portugal. She was going to, the Cotswolds the week after she got back, and funnily enough, she had just taken a self-defense course because she lives in London and she just doesn't feel safe. She's from New Zealand, and so she was, like, super appreciative that, like, I told her that because she was like, "I would not even be thinking twice in, like, the countryside of England that, like, I need to be, like, more aware or, like, paying attention or, like, not walking around at night," and, like so I think all these things happen for a reason, and, like, obviously, it was, like, super traumatic, and me and my friend Blair were, like, trauma bonded for life, but we made it out alive, and, like, I don't know if that would have been the case if we didn't immediately, like, listen to our intuition and, like, go up the way we went and, like, to this hotel where there was no I'm telling you guys, this town was, like, completely asleep, like, no one was out, dark, and it just so happened that the side road that we took that you normally logically would never go off like a main road if someone was following you. Soon as we went up there, we realized, and we couldn't see the people, like, when we were walking up there. It wasn't until we ran into the doorway that we could hear people in, like, the room next door. So I just feel like all these little things, like, if we hadn't done that and if we hadn't ran to a hotel where, thank God, people were still awake, it would have been a very different scenario, and it would have been very bad. So I just think, like, and it kinda gives me chills thinking about it because I remember at one point, like, obviously, I'm, like, on the phone and I'm crying and, like, it's, like, super we're both frantic and we're both, like, looking at each other and we're both trying to figure out, like, what to do, and, like, there was, like, at one point where I remember, like, silently to myself, I just remember, like, praying to God and being like, "Please protect us, like, please protect us, like, she's a mother, like, please protect us." Like, at one point, I kept thinking, like, her 2 kids kinda flashed in my mind, and I'm just like, "There's not a world where, like, she doesn't go home to, like, her children, like, that's just not ever gonna happen." Like, if I have to do whatever I have to do to, like, protect us, like, I will, like, 'cause I've actually been in situations where I've had to, like, physically defend myself, so for me, it wouldn't have been anything for me to, like, pick up that fire hydrant and whatever I could get my hands on and, like, literally do whatever I needed to do. Like, I was so if that guy would have gotten out of his chair, you guys, and gotten any closer to us, I would have gone absolutely feral. And I'm also, like, super thankful that I have we're both pretty feisty people, like, and I think he would have been, like, had a run for his money if he did try and attack us, and he hasn't seen Blair's front kick, okay? But no, like, in all seriousness, like, me and her combined, like, we would have done whatever we needed to, you know, get out of that situation. So I just like it just makes you think about so many different things, and it makes you think about, like, women and how we're just constantly, like, because it felt like we were prey. It really felt like we were so vulnerable, we had no way of defending ourselves, like, minus just, like, our physical being and, like, finding a weapon that we could, get our hands on, or, like, we just had no you're just defenseless, and it's just, like, really, really it's just this raw, scary, uncomfortable feeling of being, like, hunted by someone and backed into a corner, and now it's cat and mouse. Like, he's sitting there staring at us, and, like, we don't know what's happening next, or, like, what is he gonna come at us? Is he gonna sit there? Are other people coming? There's, like, a million scenarios that are going on in your mind at that point. And so, yeah, it just, like, made me think about so many different things, like, as women, it's just really sad that we live in a world like that because I don't hear too many men that have to worry about things like that, or who obviously men are men and, like, they have bar fights or whatever, and, like, but I don't there's not men that have to walk around at night, like, fearing for their life and, like, looking at someone's, like, if a man's following too closely behind you, you're ready to, like, do whatever all these thoughts start going through your head as a woman. Like, do I call 911? Like, why is he walking so close to me? Like, do I cross the street? Like, what do I do? Like, all these things. And I just think it's so sad for us as women. Like, we have to worry about it. And I mean, it just is what it is. Like, I'm definitely going to take a self-defense course from this point on, just because I mean, like, I can fend for myself, but, like, I also think to know, like, little tips and tricks for people that because this guy was also, like, on something. Like, he was drugged or he was drunk or something. So, the likelihood that, like, he would have overpowered us is, like, pretty small. Like, 2 sober women that, like, are not scared to have, like, confrontation with someone and, like, defend ourselves physically, like, he would have had a hard time. So but in another scenario, like if it's just you and it's just kind of one-on-one with like a male and you're a female, like I would like to have some tricks in my pocket to like know. Because I will say in Hawaii, um, what ended up happening was and shout out Miss Congeniality, Sandra Bullock, the movie, because it happened so quick. I wasn't able to form like a full fist, but I ended up using the back of my like the palm, the hard part of my palm. And I just whacked him right in the nose, and he immediately started bleeding and screaming and cussing me out and, like, obviously, like, he was crying, like, he couldn't see, and, like, that's what they say to do in Miss Congeniality, so, that's something small that, like, remember that, girls, like, always use your, like, palm if you can't form a fist because it just happened so quick, I couldn't even I really didn't think about it, I just smashed my hand in his face, and, like, I was not expecting to, like, break his nose or whatever, but I'm glad I did. So, yeah, I just think, and in that scenario too, there was, like, a lot of intuitive pings that were happening with me, and, like, at that point in my life, I wasn't really paying as much attention, and so there were definitely choices that I made, I think intuitively that wouldn't have made sense logically, but I was trying to make the best decisions for myself, like, with the situation in Hawaii, like I said, logically, it wouldn't make sense. Like, why would I continue to stay in the car with the guy? But I also felt like, I don't know, there was like a reason. Like, I didn't feel like he ended up turning the car around and bringing me back down to the gas station, right? But like, normally, logically, you would think like after you whack someone in the face, like you can hurry up and run out and get out of the car and run away. But we were like up on this like mountain on like a dirt road, and I just felt like that's a bad idea. Like, I don't know, for some reason, I just stayed in the car, and I felt his energy, like, he completely gave up, and he was like, "F this bitch, like, you wanna go back down, bitch? I'm taking you back down." Like, he was like, "I'm not messing with you." So, I don't know, there's just all these little, like, intuitive pings that we get sometimes in situations like that, and unfortunately, like, situations like that do happen, and I think for the Hawaii situation, like, I felt more shame, and, like, that's why I didn't go to the police because I felt like an idiot because I was like, "Why would I get in the car with someone I don't know them, like, of course, he seemed nice, you know what I mean? And then it turned really bad. But at the same time, it's like, it's sad that, like, I felt shame about that, but the guy had ill intentions from the very beginning and sought me out. He saw me looking around and saw that as an immediate, like, "Oh, she needs a ride. Let me go ask her." "She's looking for people. Like, let me see if she needs a ride." So he was, like, sorting me out, you know what I mean? And then here I am as, like, a 20-something-year-old, like, I feel shameful about that because I know better, and I never went to the police, like, I never which I should have done. And, yeah, I just felt kinda silly and stupid about it, so I never, like, did a formal report, and, like, I mean, hopefully that guy learned his lesson from me breaking his nose, I don't know, but it's just, like, little things like, that just bring up so much for me and, like, make me think a little bit deeper about situations like that, and then us finding the feather oh, and I forgot to mention, so after we found the feather, none of us really knew what that meant, we were like, "What does a feather mean? Like, if you find feathers, like, what does that mean?" And, like, you could easily Google it, but we just never did, like, we were kinda running all around, and we go into this Christmas shop, in Bourton-On-The-Water, it's this tiny little Christmas store, and it has, like, hundreds of ornaments, and you're, like, cram packed in, and, like, it would be super easy to miss something like this, and it was all the way in the back corner. And my friend Blair, she was all the way in the back and she yells, she's like, "Caroline." And I'm like, "What?" Like I thought something had happened. I'm like, "What?" And this is probably like hours before, our encounter happened that night. She found a feather ornament, a white feather ornament that said something along the lines of like, "When feathers are here, when feathers are near, angels are here," or something like that. And we were like, "No way. Like, that's so cool." And then we just kept seeing other feathers. And the day that I walked around Lisbon, I landed at 9:30 at night. So I didn't get to see much of the town. Like, I went straight to my hostel and like went to bed. And I was like very fearful, like going because I was arriving at 9:30 and I was just scared. And I've traveled around the world by myself for forever, and I've never really had any issues, like, minus Hawaii up to that point. I'd never been followed, never just never. And I've had nothing like that happen except for, I put myself in a stupid situation. But the first day in Lisbon, there was a feather. As soon as I took my first step out of the hostel, a feather right on the ground. I was like, "No way." So, anyways, I went on and I went to Lisbon by myself and had a wonderful time. I had no issues, no nothing. Met some amazing people. I had the most fun. I have to go back because I only spent 3 days in Portugal and it just wasn't enough. Like it was 3 full days minus 2 travel days on either side. But 3 full days and it just was not enough. So I have to go back. But yeah, just share that because, you know, I think intuitively we forget that our angels are around and that they're protecting us and just getting all these little pings and these little signs and kind of getting that overwhelming feeling at a certain point in the situation that happened in the Cotswolds, like that we were going to be okay. And we both said that, like at a certain point, we just realized, and it was like before they had come out, it was just like, and I think my friend had mentioned she felt that like as soon as she heard the voices inside the hotel, she was like, "We're going to be okay." Like, no doubt in my mind. I wasn't that confident right then and there. It took me a little bit longer, but I eventually had the same feeling of just like, okay, like, whew, like it doesn't matter. Like we're not fully out of the woods, but like I know we're gonna survive and we're gonna be okay. So, but yeah, and I just, all those little signs and those little, reminders that we have people that protect us, on the other side and that look out for us and our angels and our spirit guides or the universe or God or like whatever, whatever you choose to believe in. And I just like refuse to go out that way. I'm like, there's no way that that's how my life ends. Like it just can't be. There's no way. That sounds morbid, but I'm just like, there's no way. Like that's not possible. And I remember I kept thinking, I'm like, this is not, no, like, I refuse. Do you hear me, God? Like, I refuse. But yeah, so a little bit of a morbid, scary episode, I guess, like right on the heels or what's the saying? Right before Halloween. But just be on your P's and Q's, especially ladies out there that travel. I've always just been smart when I travel by myself. I've always like when I got to Lisbon, normally I would go out and I would not have any issues or think twice about, like, going out with one other person. Like, I'm not really one of those people that, like, goes out and walks around by myself or, like, does that. I do, but, like, I'm usually back in, like, the hostel kinda early. But, like, even being with, like, one other person, because it was me and her in the Cotswolds, like, even that now, I just kinda still was like I went back to the hostel and, like, I just kinda stayed in my Airbnb. Like, I'd go out for dinner and I'd walk around a little bit after that, but, like, by 9 o'clock, I'm, like, in. I'm just like unless I was with, like, a group of people, like, that was different, but yeah, and that it had never really affected me like that before. So, the situation definitely affected me, but I don't think in, like, the worst way, and I'm just kind of out of that partying stage anyway. It's just not my thing, and Lisbon's a big party city if anyone ever goes. It's, like, massive, there's a whole, like, street of bars dedicated to that, so if that's your thing, but just be mindful, be careful, like, definitely go with a group of people, like, not even just one other person, like, try and go with a big group and, like, always protect your drinks, girls, and, like, always keep your hand over it if you get a mixed drink or, like, even a beer or whatever, just, like, always keep your hand over the top and just, like, don't get to the point where you can't you're not like coherent and things like that. Cause when I look back in like my early 20s, I'm like, I don't even, and traveling all over the world, and like being in like Central America and like the amount of times people looked out for me. And I'm so grateful for that. And like really helped me when I just like drank too much or like I left my phone at the bar and like they grabbed it for me or like my wallet or like whatever. Just like, I don't know. It's always good to just like have a group of people around you. Like if you're going to be going out and partying, and even not, if you're just going to be walking around like we were, just, I don't know, maybe bring some pepper spray. I don't know. Cause I think that that would be probably my go to from now on. I think I am going to have something because it just was something that you would never think would happen. And it did. So, luckily nothing awful happened. So, but I know that stories sometimes don't end that well. So, just wanted to bring a reminder of that to everyone by sharing the story. And also, just a positive reminder that we do have angels and we do have spirit guides, and they're always, 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 always protecting us. And if you ever feel like that, just make sure you call on them and make sure you're, asking for their help and their guidance. Like, even in situations like that, I was still saying it in my mind. I was like, please protect us, please protect us, please protect us. Like, you know, making sure you're asking for their help because sometimes they don't know. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. I didn't wanna leave it on, like, a super negative note, but it was a wonderful trip. It was 10 out of 10, I have to say. I would still go back to the Cotswolds. Would I stay on Bourton-On-The-Water? Unfortunately, no, I would not. I would not. I would pass on Bourton-On-The-Water, but otherwise, the Cotswolds are absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, um, and I'm sure a wonderful part of England in general. It just is unfortunate that it happened. And Lisbon, 10 out of 10. I felt super safe in Lisbon, I have to say. It's like a very safe city. I think the tourism has taken an uptick in the past probably like decade or so. So I know that they were telling me like there's more and more incidences happening. So it's not as safe as like it used to be, but still a very safe city if anyone's planning to go. And wonderful little day trips outside of the city. Like you can go to Porto. I went to Sintra, which was super, super amazing and beautiful. And yeah, just a lot to do in Lisbon. So both of them I would recommend, even though we had a little bit of a bad experience in the Cotswolds. But overall, you guys, it was a wonderful trip, and I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back with the podcast. So yeah, that's it, you guys. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll chat soon. Bye, guys.